Trust is earned, not given, and this AAA gaming industry has a difficult time grappling with that idea. Some game publishers, I firmly believe, that they think that they deserve consumers' faith with monetization from the get-go. That's why a few months ago, BioWare's Anthem, before it were released I should say, and this was actually about 7 or 8 months ago, I was very critical of the economy and monetization because they were not being transparent about it. And there was concerns raised because of the track record that Electronic Arts has with predatory monetization, and I felt it was important to highlight that. And that's why some of these game publishers, they just do not deserve the benefit of the doubt. Now, on the other hand, there are some game publishers that do, like CD Projekt Red. A few years ago, there was some speculation that Cyberpunk 2077 would have some macrotransactions, but they came out immediately, refuted that, and said they keep greed for others. And you know why people believe that? Because of the values and what they stand by, and also their track record of being very pro-consumer. Now with Activision Blizzard and this upcoming Modern Warfare, they do not deserve the benefit of the doubt, and I'd honestly say that they are probably the most predatory, most egregious, manipulative, exploitative publisher out there. And yes, I do believe they are worse than Electronic Arts. They just get away with a lot of their nonsense because of the Call of Duty franchise, and unfortunately, I'd say a lot of influencers, YouTubers, streamers from the Call of Duty community do not hold the publisher accountable, which is really unfortunate. But with Modern Warfare, it seems like a lot of players are finally waking up and they're canceling their pre-orders and just getting away from this mess, and I applaud those who are doing that because I think it's the right decision. Now, there's been an update on the whole survival mode exclusivity deal. Infinity Ward has given a statement which just tries to downplay concerns, and then they also responded to some of the speculation and rumors and leaks going about with the weapon loot boxes. And I'm gonna say right now, what they have said is it's hilarious because I don't believe it for a second, and again, I think they are lying. But before we dive into all of this, if you do go on to enjoy this content and want to show your support for gaming news like this, please consider hitting that like button, subscribing for more, and turning notifications on so you do not miss out on any new videos. Nonetheless, we're going to start off with the exclusivity deal. This wasn't as big of a deal, but it's also just a slap in the face to Xbox One and PC gamers, and the fact that Infinity Ward, one of their narrative designers, was trying to say that this was a feature that was only 1% of the game is just a blatant lie, and I believe he also ended up deleting that tweet, which, I mean, maybe that's not too surprising, but the fact that he put that out there, it's just a bold lie. And I said this in my last video, but I had a feeling that they were just going to downplay concerns, and that's all they've done. They're not changing anything because they can't do anything. The deal between Activision Blizzard and Sony is done, and that's how it's going to stand once the game releases. So here's what Infinity Ward said on the Modern Warfare subreddit. I'm only going to read pieces of this, but down at the end of their statement they say, "We understand that some may still be disappointed to not be able to play classic Special Ops Survival Day 1. We hear you. Please know that we are working hard to make sure this is the best Call of Duty we've ever made and the best experience possible for fans." And this statement obviously was downvoted to hell, but the point is, they didn't say anything. All they did was, I mean, this statement says absolutely nothing of value. Now, I want to move past this statement because this is where we get into the real BS. And this is where an Infinity Ward developer, I believe it's the studio art director, responded to some of the speculation, rumors, and leaks regarding the loot boxes. Now, as some of you might know, last video we talked about the Gaming Revolution, a YouTuber and an insider for this Modern Warfare installment. He leaked the following in a tweet. Who wants 300 plus emotes and supply drops? Who wants 500 plus titles? Who wants over 200 sprays and supply drops? Yeah. Weapons are coming too, forget any cosmetic only malarkey. They literally are changing so much. They had a fair system with salvage and then they just remove it. I hope something changes by release, I swear. This is such a disservice to the developers who have worked so hard on the game. Not everyone wants all of this. And there's nothing really surprising about what the Gaming Revolution is reporting, and I might I add this. The Gaming Revolution has reported on so much about this game. He's leaked almost the entirety of this game accurately, and that's why I find it hysterical what Infinity Ward has responded with, and this is actually going again to the Modern Warfare subreddit, and it's titled A Developer's Point of View, and again, this is the studio art director. He says, "Hey gang, take a second and think about who on the production side comes to this sub and reads through the comments. Infinity Ward developer. We are a mixed bag of nerds, jocks, and everything in between. It's amazing, but we all get along and come together every day to build something that we believe in. We've dedicated dedicated our careers to being the best at what we do and to making the best possible game we can make. That's corny, but at the same time, this is a job, and if you work at a job and aren't successful, then eventually there is no job. Almost all of us we've worked in this industry for long enough to know that if we don't make a good game, then no one will play it. It's pretty much all we think about, and for most of us, we treat every game like it's our last, so we put everything we have into it. We never hold back. So the early part of this statement, I'm just gonna skip past it now because it's really just trying to say that they're people, they're gamers, and just for comparison's sake, remember before all the whole Star Wars Battlefront 2 loot box debacle? Well, Electronic Arts was saying the same nonsense, and I believe this is also an art director at Electronic Arts, Chris Matthews. He said this just a few weeks before Star Wars Battlefront 2 launched and all the outrage emerged. Right now there has been games that exploit players, and there will be games that have done it in better ways. DICE has taken great care to make sure that star cards and the way that they work give you more options in battle. Terms like pay to win and stuff like that are hard to dodge, but the guys are doing a really incredible job of trying to balance that system. The response is not annoying because we love the fans, we're gamers, and we're trying to make something that's super compelling, that everybody's going to enjoy, but you know, it's understandable. And you know what ended up happening a few weeks later? It probably one of the most predatory games ever, and all the outrage and controversy, and I mean, the fact that Electronic Arts was trying to downplay concerns, it did not age well. That's why this developer going on saying that we're gamers, we're real people, yeah, I get that. But also Activision Blizzard, the executives at the top don't care about any of that. And they're the ones who are the shot callers. So moving further into this Infinity Ward developer's statement where he starts picking it up and he actually takes a shot at this leaker, the one who leaked the loot boxes, he says, so yes, the current drama, you're all being heard, all of it. I don't know why, but on my daily scans of this sub where I'm looking for useful feedback, I even read the ultra dark toxic comments that tell me how incompetent and stupid I must be and how I should go away somewhere where I can't harm people with my bad ideas and artwork. Again, I haven't seen any of that, but again, I don't blame these developers at all. I just blame the people at the top. That's what I always want to emphasize. These developers, they're just doing their job. And unfortunately, the executives at the top will ruin a game like Modern Warfare, and they will do it before release, people. So he says a lot of other stuff. I think he just emphasizes that, again, they're real people. But here's the big part. He says, there are some announcements that have come up this week that are official and some that are rumors. My ask of all of you is to focus on information that is actually fact and not getting thrown off by ill-informed people that want to make a name for themselves by spreading half-baked inflammatory rumors. Let's work real problems together and not fairy tales of boogeyman. That's all I got. Hope you guys are having a good day. So this Activision developer has taken a shot at the gaming revolution. And it's important to understand, this guy has hyped up this game more than anybody. He's the one who's been excited by this. All of a sudden it's now an issue because he reported on their monetization plans. I just find that absolutely hilarious. And I unfortunately have to disagree with this Call of Duty developers, Activision developer, whatever. You have not earned the benefit of the doubt. I don't want to hear this from them. I really don't. And it actually makes me pretty angry that they're actually coming out with a statement like this. I mean, let's look at the Call of Duty history in the last 5 or 6 years. In 2014, Call of Duty Advanced Warfare was the first game to, I believe, have the supply drop system, and yes, it had weapons and loot boxes. It introduced weapon variants. It was one of the most predatory games, and that's where the problems began. But then in 2015, Black Ops 3 again had weapons and loot boxes. But here's the deal. Months before launch, Activision told members of the press that the game would not have the supply drop system, but guess what? It ended up coming anyway. But then in 2016, again, Infinite Warfare had supply drops and it had weapons and loot boxes. And that same year, there was the Modern Warfare Remastered, and in the years to come, they also introduced a supply drop system for a remaster, and guess what they included in that supply drop system? Weapons. In 2017, with Call of Duty World War II, eventually weapons would come in the loot boxes. But here's the deal with that game. This doesn't get mentioned by anybody very often, but right at release, it was leaked within the in-game files that they had plans for weapon loot boxes almost immediately at release, but those plans were delayed because of the whole Star Wars Battlefront 2 loot box debacle. So the weapons and loot boxes didn't end up coming until I believe it was just this summer. But then we moved to 2018 with Black Ops 4, it's not even worth mentioning. That game it's as pay to win as it gets, and there's so much monetization BS. It's absurd what Treyarch and Activision has gotten away with that game. Now here in 2019, it looks like Modern Warfare is going to continue it again. Without the season pass, you better believe they're going to make up that money some way, somehow. And for what it's worth, I better mention this because I know someone's going to say it in the comment section. Yes, previous Call of Duty games, some of them did include bounties or collections to earn weapons outside of the loot box system. Although what that included was a ridiculous grind that most players, they just don't have the time for that, and you better believe that Activision knows that. Activision Blizzard, any game from them does not deserve the benefit of the doubt, and the fact that this developer thinks that these rumors are inflammatory is absolutely, it's hilarious. Like with what the Gaming Revolution reported, 300 plus emotes and supply drops, yeah, that's in Black Ops 4. 500 plus titles, Black Ops 4, yep. Who wants over 200? All of this is in Black Ops 4. This isn't absurd. This is probably what's coming ahead, and there's no reason to take their word for any of this. But back to his statement, he says, let's work real problems together, not fairy tales of boogeyman. I'm thinking he's talking about Activision. This is none of this is made up. I find it actually infuriating that this developer is trying to make this defense for his publisher, this billion-dollar organization that gets away with exploiting and using predatory monetization. I'm not trying to send any hate his way, but the fact that he's making this defense it's infuriating, and it makes me really fucking angry. But furthermore, and I gotta cool myself down a little bit, but the Gaming Revolution has given us an update from his source with, it seems like somebody who works at Infinity Ward, but he has reported that Activision and Infinity Ward apparently recently held a big meeting regarding my recent post about supply drops. The gist of it is that they've lost a ton of pre-orders with the recent news of Survival being delayed by a year on PC and Xbox, and the macro transaction news, and are thinking about giving the players the options to earn them again. Nothing regarding macro transactions is set in stone, and like I've said countless times before, they are a constant work in progress, but my source wanted to let the community know that they really care. Yes, the developers, of course they care, but monetization will ruin this game. And if you don't think that the monetization models that were implemented recently in Call of Duty World War II and Black Ops 4 are not going to make it in Modern Warfare, you're lying to yourself. But as I've said throughout this video, I just can't trust a word coming from Activision at all. It was just I believe it was a few days ago that Charlie Intel reported this. Treyarch last year, Black Ops 4 will be the most supported game and played for years to come. Treyarch today, Dark Divide is the last operation. Oof, oof, oof. Yes, because that's the thing with the Call of Duty franchise. They are known for lying. So no, I do not believe this Activision Infinity Ward developer and what he's trying to say, and I don't think anybody should at all listen to what he's saying. Activision and Infinity Ward has not earned that benefit of the doubt like other developers have. I mean, come on people, 5 or 6 years, every single Call of Duty installment having weapons and loot boxes. Maybe it doesn't come day one, but eventually that's what's ahead. Activision Blizzard, the executives have shown time and time again that they do not care for their players and what they actually want. They're only thinking about what makes the most sense, and putting weapons and loot boxes creates billions of dollars in profit, and again, that's all they care about at the end of the day. But no matter what, the damage is done. On the Xbox subreddit, you have a viral post saying that normally most calls for boycotts are nonsense, but Xbox owners should absolutely not support Modern Warfare after confirmation that Xbox owners don't get access to Spec Ops for a whole year. And that's not entirely too true, it's just that the survival mode is not going to be accessible, but again, you could argue that the survival mode is a big part of the Spec Ops experience, so missing out on that is kind of missing out on the Spec Ops mode. But yeah, a lot of people are pissed, a lot of pre-orders have been canceled, and I don't blame people. Besides Xbox and PC gamers being upset and canceling pre-orders because the survival mode will not be available for them for one entire year, there's also many canceling pre-orders, and I think that this is the big reason why people are canceling pre-orders, and it's the fact that DLC guns are likely, reportedly, going to be in the loot boxes. You have posts like this on the Modern Warfare subreddit, and even with the clarification post about the survival mode on the Modern Warfare subreddit coming from an Infinity Ward developer, I believe I showed this earlier on in this video, the main responses weren't actually about the survival mode. The responses were about weapons and loot boxes. Some of the top comments, as you can see here: you want to make the best COD ever, keep weapons out of supply drops. Keep the slot machines out of my COD, thanks. And I mean, I just don't believe that's gonna happen. It makes too much money for Activision, $1 billion feature, and no matter what, eventually, maybe a couple months after launch, once the millions of copies are sold, reviews are written, and I guess all the outrage has moved on, a lot of people just don't care anymore, those weapons will be in loot boxes. And it's just where this Call of Duty franchise is at this point, and you just cannot trust one word coming from Activision, and these developers end up getting caught in lies because Activision doesn't care. They just don't care that they've made a promise that the game will be cosmetic only, like they've done multiple times in the past with previous games, like Black Ops 3, which eventually had loot boxes. But anyway, this yearly anti-consumer nonsense is not going to slow down no matter what Activision says or wants people to believe. believe. Actions speak louder than words, and I've learned my lesson through the years not to trust this publisher and the lies they like to spew. But what do you make of their response to the outrage surrounding Modern Warfare and their blasting of a leaker which essentially exposed their anti-consumer plans that they are working on behind the scenes? Do you think anything has changed due to the backlash? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below, but thank you for watching. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this video or found any informative value, and make sure to follow my other social media accounts for updates on new videos. Links are always down in the description below. I'm most active on Twitter, giving opinions on news that I do not always get into video form, so make sure to follow me over there. Also check out my Discord for all sorts of discussion and conversation on games, and again, thank you for joining. Consider subscribing for more videos like this, and I'll see you later.